Imagine living through nearly a decade with no playoff series win. That weight doesn't just sit on a stat sheet. It clings to a franchise, its fan base, and every player who puts on that jersey. The last time the Fever advanced this far, Tamika Catchings was still the heartbeat of the team. Natasha Howard was a rising youngster at the very start of her career. Stephanie White was calling the plays during her first stint as head coach. That was 2015, a completely different league, a completely different time. Now in 2025, Indiana stepped into a Game 3 that wasn't simply about basketball. It was about history staring them down once again. And what made this night even heavier was the reality of the roster. Caitlin Clark sidelined, Sophie Cunningham unavailable, Sydney Colson out, Khloe Bby, Arie MacDonald, Dantas, all sitting. That's an enormous chunk of scoring, leadership, and experience ripped from the rotation. For most teams, that would have been the nail in the coffin. But for Indiana, it became the very reason to fight harder. Nobody outside that locker room believed. But inside it, they clung to something bigger than predictions. The anger from Game 1 had carried with them, too. Phantom whistles, a technical on their coach, and a sense that the officiating had yanked away their rhythm. That bitterness lingered. But instead of sulking, the Fever sharpened it into fuel. They wanted redemption. They wanted fairness. They wanted a chance to prove that when you strip away excuses, they had enough grit to survive. From the opening tip, it was clear this wasn't going to be smooth sailing. Atlanta was healthy, fueled by their crowd, and ready to pounce. The Gateway Center arena pulsed with energy, fans smelling blood in the water. And yet Indiana didn't look rattled. They looked locked in. Kelsey Mitchell set the tone. She had already been through too many losing years to let this slip by. Her burst off the dribble was relentless, carving into Atlanta's defense even as they crowded her with double teams. She dropped 24 points, and what's remarkable is that 19 of those came before halftime. That scoring explosion kept Indiana alive while the rest of the team found its footing. Even when Atlanta threw bodies at her, Mitchell didn't vanish. She shifted gears, assisting, defending, doing whatever was necessary to make sure her team kept breathing. Beside her, Aaliyah Boston battled in the trenches like her career depended on it. Matched against Bree Jones, she absorbed punishment possession after possession but never cracked. Her stat line, 14 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, wasn't just numbers. Every rebound came in a crowd. Every bucket was a declaration. She wasn't just playing for herself. She was anchoring a team decimated by injuries and still finding a way to stand tall. And when she hit the go-ahead basket late in the game, the calm on her face told the story of someone who understood the weight of history. Natasha Howard's fingerprints were everywhere, too. She scrapped for loose balls, extended possessions, and gave Indiana the second chances they desperately needed. It wasn't flashy, but it was essential. Then Odyssey Sims delivered what might have been her best performance in Fever colors. 16 points and 8 assists in hostile territory, fearlessly driving into the lane, absorbing contact, and forcing Atlanta to adjust to her rhythm. For someone who hadn't been part of the roster all year, her composure under fire was staggering. Brianna Turner's impact came in the shadows. Contesting shots, sealing gaps in the defense, plugging holes whenever Atlanta tried to exploit mismatches, her presence was a backbone, the kind of glue that holds fragile moments together. And then there was aerial powers, limited minutes but pure chaos energy. Diving for loose balls, blocking shots, hounding Atlanta's wings. When she hit the floor, the entire team seemed to raise its volume. It was still a knife's-edge battle. Every possession felt like it could swing the series. Indiana had clawed back into striking distance, but with under 30 seconds left, the Fever trailed by a point. That's when Kelsey Mitchell cut inside with her trademark speed and scored on a layup assisted by Boston. The dream answered, but Indiana refused to blink. Then, the moment came. Lexie Hull, who had struggled all night with her shot, finally got the ball again on the wing. She had missed jumper after jumper. But this time, she didn't hesitate. She pulled. The ball arced through the air, and when it splashed into the net, it wasn't just 3 points. It was redemption. It was belief. It was hope. Atlanta still had life. 7 seconds left. Inbound pass ready. Their season hanging in the balance. Everyone in the building expected the ball to find its way safely into the hands of a dream scorer. But Hull had other plans. Reading the angle, watching her defender's eyes, she pounced. A clean steal. The ball was hers. The game was over. The series was finished. Lexie Hull, on the worst shooting night of her postseason career, made the biggest defensive play of her life. One moment of anticipation, one burst of courage, and a 10-year drought shattered into dust. Indiana Fever were heading back to the semifinals. The celebration was electric. Players hugged each other with the kind of relief only a decade of waiting can produce. Mitchell held her teammates tight, eyes wet with joy. Boston sat with her head bowed, overwhelmed by the gravity of the moment. Hull clutched the game ball like a trophy, holding it up for every camera in sight. Even Caitlin Clark, forced to watch from the sidelines in street clothes, was on her feet, waving towels, screaming like a fan, and later posting "Fever Show" in all caps online. Every single player, injured or active, had fingerprints on this win. In the locker room, Stephanie White's voice cracked as she praised her team. She told them this was toughness. This was resilience, that no matter the circumstance, no matter the score, no matter the time, they had answered the call. She reminded them that it's always someone different who steps up, and tonight, that someone was Lexie Hull. But celebration came with a dose of reality. Up next is the Las Vegas Aces, the defending champions. A team with Aja Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, and the kind of depth that punishes the slightest mistake. Becky Hammon, never one to pull punches, warned the Fever bluntly, "They haven't seen the real Aces yet. Indiana knows what's coming." They survived 6 injuries, bad whistles, and elimination pressure. Now they'll be tested against the league's gold standard in a best-of-5 series. It won't be easy. It might even be brutal. But after what they just did in Atlanta, how can anyone doubt their fight? The Fever's victory was more than just a playoff advancement. It was the rebirth of a franchise. 10 years of frustration snapped in one unforgettable night. They showed the league that toughness and belief can carry a battered, short-handed roster further than anyone dared imagine. They showed that history doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It's made in moments like Lexie Hull's steal. The story of this season is no longer about injuries or bad calls. It's about resilience, heart, and a team that finally broke through. The Indiana Fever are in the semifinals, and they're not done yet.